welcome everyone to the State of Africa podcast. The purpose of this podcast really is to change the perception around Africa through storytelling, to unite Africans through conversations, and then try to design a better future for the continent. Really, because I mean, I think you must have seen it. Africa is the youngest continent right now. Over 65% of population is youth. So, I mean, if we can't do something about that as youth, then there's something really wrong with the continent, but hopefully we can. And today I have with me Sinothando Ngubane. Am I correct? Is that correct?
Yes.
I hope
Yeah,
it is.
very.
So, Sinothando is an entrepreneur and creative strategist from South Africa. And you're the CEO of
Yes.
Unami Collective. Sorry?
Yes. Yeah.
The CEO Unami Collective. I think you're into film, photography, animation, comics. Comics is part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love
And
comic
then
books.
you're an author, digital marketing specialist, and a consultant for that's Gracha Marshall Trust. Is that the pronunciation?
Yeah, the Gresham
Gracha
Marshall
Marshall
Trust.
Trust. Yeah, so I mean, looks like you have your hand in a lot of things, really. And
Yeah.
hopefully we can talk about some of that today. So I just want to dive right in and just go straight ahead and ask, in your own opinion, right? Because we're talking about Africa here. In your own opinion, do you
Mm.
really think genuinely Africa can come out of like underdevelopment and become developed? Really, genuinely speaking, in your own opinion.
Yo, genuinely, I do think it definitely is possible. I don't think I'd see it in this lifetime. And I think we first have to start
Mm,
off by defining what development looks like. Are we looking at it as in we'd be developed and be like a first world country like the Americas that we see that also have their own issues? So yeah, I definitely think it is possible, but it would require like a significant shift in mindset, especially from the youth, because I think we centralize our focus too much on, government and oh, these people just aren't doing anything right. And it's
mhm,
like with me, that was a very hefty introduction. I do a lot of things. I try to spread myself thin even if I have to say, look, I'm not gonna sit here and complain and do nothing. Let me actually put myself in these spaces so that I can make that change that I want to see, be the change you want to see in the world. But I think it's more than just infrastructure. It's more than flying cars. It's more than hoverboards that we want to see in Africa. It's more so about valuing local innovation. I think we don't even appreciate our own talent. I'm gonna speak more so for the creative industry. We don't appreciate our artists until they get that external validation. So until we shift our mindset and say, look, if Wiz is big in Africa, he's big in Africa. If Nasty C is big in Africa, they're big in Africa. They don't have to go to the Europes for us to be like, okay, now we're gonna take you seriously. So, and then I think just fostering a culture of accountability as well. That's something I got really heated about the other day. We don't hold the people in power accountable, but then we expect them to change. And it's like,
yeah.
I'm not gonna do anything if you're not holding me accountable and saying, look, you're wrong. So I think if we embrace ownership of our narrative and say, look, okay, we were colonized. These are the cards we were dealt. These are the resources we currently have. I definitely think then from there progress is achievable. I don't think I'd see a developed Africa in my lifetime.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you say that though, because you don't really think you would see it in your lifetime. I mean, I believe I will. I
No,
believe I will. Because but then
really.
something else you mentioned, like trying to you have to take into context the hands Africa was dealt.
Mm,
Yeah. Because a lot of the time we don't really take into consideration what Africa has gone through, and then we try to like come out of what we
exactly.
have not acknowledged. So it's like, bro, you have
Exactly.
real problems. So until you tackle those problems, you really will not become, you won't become what you hope to be, right? And a lot of Africans, we that is
Mhm.
what we do. I mean, even from this podcast, a lot of the things I've talked about, even before having the first guest, is about how we have to acknowledge a
Yeah.
lot of these things, right? We have to acknowledge them and then
Definitely.
deal with them. We can't just ignore them and say, yeah,
Yeah.
Africa can do this. So many things you've touched upon, and I think so. So it really goes into the next question, yeah. So that means you think, or should I say, you don't think. Okay, do you really think that the mindset can be reconfigured? Is that something you really believe, or you just think there's no hope? Someone still told me yesterday night that there's really no hope for Africans. But so, what do you think?
I think, yo, I'm a radical optimist. I like to be positive, so I do think there is. If you think that they can be changed, and I think that they can be changed, there's like, okay, I don't know the exact numbers. There's 8 billion of us in the world. At least a billion youth would think the same way and would actually work towards that. So I definitely think it is possible, but sometimes something being possible doesn't mean it's gonna happen. But I'm hopeful. I hope it happens. Yeah.
You hope, well, I mean, I hope it happens too. It's part of what I'm trying to do, trying to have these conversations. I mean, if you check my TikTok, a lot of people just mentioning these things triggers some people like, forget about it. Africa cannot move forward. I'm like, at least you have to believe. The least you can do
Mm.
is believe, right? And if you believe,
Believe.
then try to do
Exactly.
something about it. Because if you don't believe, then you won't think it's possible, right? And then, but if you believe and you think it's possible, then you can try to do something about it. And just trying to read through history personally, and I'm like, it's not as if Africa was not doing well before the foreigners came, right? And after the foreigners came, trying to trick a lot
Mm.
of the places, trying to trick a lot of the communities. That is how Africa actually got into where it is now, because the foreigners did not come with good intentions, right? They did not come with good motives. Whereas Africans just
Yeah.
took them in with open arms, right? And it's still the same thing we do to you today, thinking they
Yeah.
have good motives, right? So, but then, like you mentioned earlier, we do not take our governments accountable. We do not hold them accountable, rather. So, is that something
Yeah.
you think is really possible, like holding the government accountable? Because if you think about it, the government has a lot of power, and really, most of the time when you hear protests, there's a lot of fight back from the government. So, do you think the people can actually hold the government accountable from your own perspective?
I mean, recently we just had a movement. I don't know if you saw.
Wow.
We were hosting the G20. South Africa hosted the G20 last year, and
Yeah.
we had purple profile pictures in line with the Women for Change SA movement, where we were saying,
Oh, okay,
look, we
that's what
want
that is
to
about.
declare
Okay.
national. Exactly. And we were able to do that. So I think I think we need to reframe what progress looks like. That might have seemed small to a lot of people, like it
Yeah.
was just a profile picture, a purple profile picture. I still have it up on some platforms, but that we were able to put pressure onto the government. And before that, um, there was an issue with the national credit regulation where they wanted to convert student debt to like debt that actually impacts your credit score, which
Ooh.
is somewhat like creating an issue where now access to education now becomes a burden because realistically
Yeah.
speaking, as a democracy, we're very, very young. We're very, very young. South Africa is really, really young. I think this is our 2026 is our 32nd year as a
Yeah.
democracy. Not a lot of youth and only like it's mainly how do I say this? It's mainly colored and like
Mm.
black youth that are I don't like using that word, but black youth that are marginalized in that sense. So we were even able to sign a petition. My mom, bless her heart, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, was also like very pivotal to saying, look, that's just not gonna happen. We're not gonna allow that to happen to our youth. So I definitely think we can hold them accountable. Most times we don't want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like with this Cape Independence thing that's going on. Yeah, like, whoa, yo, actually, no, let's be honest. South Africa is a very easy state to capture. Um, I can't really speak for Africa as a whole. Um, yeah, my mom's the more traveled one, but I think I believe in what other countries can do, i.e. Cote d'Ivoire. I believe in what they're doing and how they navigate. I think they put identity at the core of the challenge to be like, look,
Mm.
the French came, they colonized us. These are the cards that were dealt. This is what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, these are really interesting things
Yeah.
here. So first of all, I saw the profile picture, the purple stuff on
Mhm.
Tyler's TikTok. So I was one, and then I saw it on other
Yeah.
people's on a few more. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So this is the first time I know the context behind it. You see, that's the funny thing
Yeah.
because we see these things and we're like, okay, but then when we start
Yeah.
discussing this thing, we realize, okay, this is what is happening, right? Because a lot of time we're in our own bubbles as countries around Africa. A lot of time, I mean, Nigerians, we don't know
Yeah.
what's happening in Ghana, we don't know what's happening in Benin Republic, we don't know what's happening in Cameroon, not to talk of South Africa. So just having these discussions, sometimes you're able to understand. You mentioned something about South Africa being an easy state to capture. Why do you say that? Like, is easy to capture?
Yeah, I saw that on Debo Vishani's post the other time. So there's basically this whole high profile case going on called the Mahlanga Commission. I'm not an expert. This is just me
Yeah.
paraphrasing and retelling it to you how I understood it. And basically, obviously, we have a lot of issues with corruption. Like that's our truth. And this then
Yeah.
creates systemic barriers. People had issues with access to health. So the most notable one was the Tembisa hospital scandal. So a lot of money was embezzled, basically. A tender was issued, money was embezzled, people didn't get treatment, people's grandmothers were sick, people lost family members because of that. And now we're watching this case in real time. It's being broadcast by the SABC on YouTube, and we're able to like follow this case in real time. And we were able to go not interview Kurtz, man, but we were seeing him and people were making clips and these very same women with profile pictures that are purple that are standing against GBV were like, wow, he's so hot. He's so, he's so like he's such a dominant guy. And I was like, he killed people. He killed people like murder, you know?
Yeah.
And we might romanticize it, but it was people were so quick to like make light of it. People on Twitter making jokes, and it's like you see now this is why people can do what they do because you guys think everything's
Yeah.
funny, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like we're a very easy state to capture because we lose the plots very
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah,
I mean, it's really sad because I understand what you're talking about because what happened in Nigeria in 2020, I don't know if you heard about it, NSAS and all those
yeah.
things. Yeah. Some people then talk about how the same government you were fighting against, now you're taking pictures with them. Like, where can't you hold grudge long enough to just hate them forever? Like, I mean, you're just protesting.
Really.
I mean, so I guess it's the same all over. And why do you think this is something that really bothers me? Why is it easy for the government to not really just the government, the people really? I don't know about South Africa, but just obeying rules and regulation is really, really hard. I mean, here in Nigeria, just if you put up rules and laws and regulation now, and you're trying to like uphold it, they will point fingers at you and say that can't you just leave us to do what we want? You're like, the rules are for order, and now you're going against people who are trying to hold you accountable. So, what exactly is the problem? Why do you think that is?
Exactly. Yo, this is where again I don't know everything. I think for me, in my experience, again, like a lot, like again, I know how old our democracy is. Number one, we don't have conversations with each other. I do my best to kind of try and go out of my way to see what's going on with my neighboring countries, my fellow Africans, because it has to be a collective effort, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
I think it's identity politics, and the reason why I say that is because take you for example. Actually, take me, young black African. I'm a woman. I always say I absolutely love my country. I love people, but I don't think I'm patriotic enough to be a politician because I understand the issues that I face on the day. I was raised by a single mother, and should you guys put me in a position of power, it's not a great thing to hear somebody say, but I think acknowledging it and being honest. If our politicians are honest to say, look, I've got issues, and if somebody offers me 2 million rand to basically screw the rest of you guys over for my own benefits and my own family's benefits, that's what's gonna happen. Because I don't know you guys, but I know me. I know my lived experiences. I know my sister's lived experiences. And if it's between buying my younger sister a Louis bag and your grandmother getting treatments, this is something I would choose. So I think it's our politicians not being honest about that and saying, look, I'm not as patriotic as you guys want me to be. And yeah, we're just not realistic enough. We're not inquisitive enough when it comes to who we put in power. I remember when our current president, I don't know, hey, hopefully I don't get in trouble. Our current president was like, you know, getting to office, people were like, oh, he's a billionaire. He's not gonna steal money. He's not gonna do all the tender things because he has money. What ethical billionaire do you know out there? And you guys just gave the biggest purse in the world to like dip into. So I think that, but you see how linear that thinking is and how close that thinking is. By the time you're getting to hold that person accountable, it's late. And I know people who still, when they see our presidents out in public, who said let them eat cake a while ago, they still
Mm.
want to take a picture. Identity politics, because they're then prioritizing themselves over the greater good,
Yeah.
over the well-being of a nation. They're prioritizing themselves, how many likes they're gonna get. They're prioritizing, oh wow, like I was seeing with the president. You don't even like the president, you know. So I
Right.
think it's that kind of thing. And I hope I'm not like sounding too hostile, but yeah, in Africa and
Yeah.
as a whole. And we make light of it, and we make jokes. I also repost the corruption TikToks on. Yeah, I also repost those corruption talk jokes, but it's serious at the end of the day. You know,
Yeah.
it's not fun.
We
Yeah,
make light of a lot of things, to be honest, of a lot of things. And people talk about how that is how we cope. I mean, yeah, that may be how you cope, but
mm,
there comes a time where you have to take things serious. If you're going to come out of this rut as
exactly,
African, we have to take things serious. Because if we don't take things serious, I mean, the politicians already know that these people are not serious. We can do whatever we want, and then we'll get away with it. So really,
exactly.
it keeps happening all over the place, all over. I mean, I remember when
Oh
Ruto
my
won in
God.
Kenya. I saw things online when people were like, they were rejoicing because he won, right? And now they are protesting. You're like, okay, so what exactly is going on here? What is going on here? Is it that was it good when it came in and then it became bad, or was it bad and you did not know it was bad? Because
Mm,
right now we are not even taking anything serious, and is a problem all
we're
over the
not.
place, all over the continent, and it's really frustrating because how can you then
Mm,
think, oh, I'm Nigerian. If I go to Ghana or I try to do it's the same thing happening over there. It's just a different type of corruption or type of problem.
exactly.
Just talking to other Africans, really, right? I started to realize there are actually many brilliant Africans, intelligent Africans, but for some reason, the continent as a whole, the countries, like as entities themselves, they're not moving forward. So all these people, what are they doing? Then I started to realize it's actually systemic. I mean, right. You want to say something?
No, I'm like agreeing with you. I'm like, you're so right.
So, I mean, these conversations are very important. Then there's something else I want to touch on because I also noticed while discussing these things, just throughout I mean, the podcast I've talked about a lot of things. A lot of people talk about how Africa, the pre-colonial Africa, is not being discussed enough, right? And people from South Africa, Kenya, different parts of Africa, they talk about how we don't talk about these things. Zimbabwe, we don't talk about these things. All we know is the colonial master. Da, 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 da. Is it also the same? And to be honest, everything I've heard about, well, not everything, but most times when I hear about South Africa, I hear about Nelson Mandela, apartheid, and all these things. Nobody talks about what South Africa was before then. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So is this something that is never discussed, or is it discussed but not enough, or it is suppressed, or what? What exactly is it really?
Ish. I think for me, everything I try to like take a two-pronged approach because it's like I wouldn't say it was taught heavily in schools. Everything that I've learned about South Africa pre-colonially was through my mother and conversations
Mm,
with other adults around me who were like, okay, look, this is how colonial history shaped where we are right now. But also beyond it being taught in schools, nah, I'm not about to like start beefing with the Department of Education. Like we're always
Yeah.
getting into it because there really is a gap. It's rarely discussed in schools. It's really, really discussed in schools. I find out things every day. I'm learning things every day about our history. But at the same time, libraries are free. I mean, the infrastructure isn't great. You might not, it's not maybe aesthetic enough, whatever, but libraries are free. Go and read and have an inquisitive mind. I think, yeah, like encourage yourself. Be curious. You can't tell me when like I'm born free, but that doesn't mean what happened in all the years before my existence is irrelevant to me. So I've also gone out of my way to kind of do research and find out what umlando wethu was, which is our history. And because that determines where we're going. So I think a lot of the times it is really discussed, but in the same breath, I don't see a lot of youth. There are people, I'm not saying they aren't, but I don't see a lot of youth actually wanting to find out, when are they just looking ahead? And it's like, no, our history actually determines where we're going. So, yeah.
Yeah, very, very correct. It has a heavy impact on where we are going as a people, as an individual, really. If you don't know your history, there are some things that will be controlling you and you're like, why am I doing this? Well, that's for people who are thinking critically anyway. But there are people who just act and you're like, well,
Yeah.
that's just how I am. Well, that is not how you are. There's a reason you are like that. It's the same thing with countries. It's the same thing with the continent,
Even.
really. Because there's a reason why Africa is what
Mm-hmm.
it is today, right? There's a reason why the things are underdeveloped. I mean, talking about how the
Yeah.
whole continent was split with borders and all these things. And today we have ethnic groups that are divided between countries, right? And now you have taken an identity of a country, of two different countries, whereas you are one ethnic group. And you're like, okay, how did this come about? There's a reason that is. But we a lot of like you mentioned,
Exactly.
it's not like there are people who are not doing this, who are not inquisitive enough. But the truth is a lot of people, they really don't care about these things, to be honest. And it really begs the question. So if Africa is mostly youth now and we want to change the continent, why are the people who are supposed to change the continent not interested in the history of the continent and how it's supposed to move forward? These are the questions that we need to be asking that we are
Yeah.
not. So another thing I want to touch upon is, so you mentioned something earlier about how it has to be a collective effort, right? Amongst the
Yeah.
countries in Africa, amongst the nationalities and all these things. So what exactly is the problem? Why do you think? Because in my mind, I told someone just yesterday night that it seems straightforward. Of course, the process might not be,
It
but the
does.
solution seems straightforward. That if you cooperate with other countries in Africa as a government, really, if you cooperate with that, okay, open the borders, open the trade routes, things are going to open up in Africa. But for some reason, the governments have just decided, maybe there's something blocking them, that they are not doing it. So why do you think, from your own opinion, remember, we're just having this conversation, like from a South African's perspective, from Sino's perspective, why do you think that thing still exists where the borders are closed, the trade routes are closed? I mean, what's your opinion?
I think for me, I wish I could speak on this technically and I had like stats and like, hardcore facts to bring to you. But in my personal opinion, I think first and foremost, we don't have a lot of community cohesion within ourselves. We have 9 provinces in South Africa. I think we have, yeah, last I checked, it was 13 official languages, and we still, suffer with issues like tribalism. But I think it's more on the leadership side. I think we have very poor leadership. And I want to hold them accountable, but also at the same time, it's like the people in power actually grew up during apartheid. So they're not going to lead how I, as a born free woman, would want them to lead. But I think we have a
Mm,
lot of fragmented systems. One thing that my mom always likes to say is like, look, we are still using um legislation and policies that were put in place during apartheid. And we're expecting them to work now. But when you deep it, those were in favor of the Europeans that came to colonize. It was white people.
Yeah.
So that then just kind of bolsters a lack of continental collaboration in terms of it being compounded by the fact that we still somewhat are upholding a colonial legacy. Because even now, I still see a division between South Africans and other Africans. Somebody on Twitter said we're the America of Africa, could say Kenya sometimes. She's like, we think highly of ourselves. But it's like, in order for us to want to be unified, our leadership has to seem unified. And I don't see a lot of
Yeah.
them collaborating with one another. They're moving like individuals, and this is why, okay, people think Africa is a country, but we're not moving as one. And, and,
Yeah.
and that's the fault of our leadership. I don't know what advice I'd give them. I'm actually gonna go read up on that to say, look, okay, this is what we have to do. But for me, in my personal capacity, there's a lot I try to do to kind of say, okay, look, now I'm trying to foster collaboration between us. I absolutely adore Nigeria's creative industry. I love everything that they're doing. Not a lot of people around me feel the same way, but it's like, yay. I go into like wormholes for weeks on end because I'm like, wow, the ability to actually invest so much. Again, I haven't been there, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but I just admire it so much. Yo, who am I even trying to think of like right now? Yeah, yo, I listen to a lot of Afro beats, but I'm more fascinated by like how much work is put into those music videos that are shot in Nigeria, the infrastructure that's there for the creative industry. Yeah, that's something I'm very fascinated by. But I think one of the biggest solutions is what you're doing, this podcast, having conversations, leveraging media to hold those that are in power accountable. Yeah.
I mean, the hope is it works because there's a vision for it. So hopefully the vision actually comes to life. Yeah. And I mean, a lot has been said about Nigeria's creative ecosystem. And yet, to be honest, Nigeria's creative ecosystem is really thriving. But, but, so this is where the but is because it's not actually state backed. That's the funny thing. So the state is just coming into
Yeah.
it. All right. When I say just coming into it, I'm talking about maybe like 3-4 years ago. But it has never. I don't want to use absolute terms now, but it hasn't been state backed. It has just been. It has been individual. It has been individually driven, and maybe like just groups of people coming together to make things work. Nightlife is just they're bubbling spaces here and there, but it is not collective. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So what happens then is that I've observed is you see individual people, individual companies springing up, but collectively there's really no system backing these things up. So what works for one might not work for the other
That's,
because it's just for you have to find your way. You have to figure out things yourself. So there's no
yeah.
systemic. No, do you get what I'm trying to say? So, for example, now people go to school, and then at the end of this particular period of years, you graduate. Even that now is a problem in Nigeria. I don't know about South Africa, right? But then what I'm trying to say is there's a system
Mhm.
for it, yeah. But then that is because that is actually state backed, and like you said, all those things were put in place by foreigners and all those things, but it is state backed. So why can't the state also back something like IP creativity so that we can know that okay,
Okay,
if this is what you want to do,
talk
there
about
is
it.
how you can do it and go about it that will make it work. But then you realize a lot of things are not really state backed, and that is just from creativity to manufacturing to media to anything you want to talk about. So you then begin to ask yourself, what exactly is the government doing? All they do is embezzle money, and you're wondering, well, okay, is that all you know? So let's talk about your business for a bit. Let's talk about your business for a bit. So for Unami Collective, yeah, you're into animation, photography, and all these things. Are there particular challenges you faced? I mean, I'm sure there are many because running a business is not easy, right? So, are there particular challenges you faced, and you're like, okay, so how do you think? If okay, let me just first of all ask: are there particular challenges you faced? Particular challenges you faced?
Yes. Lack of support, but that's just me. As I think as an entrepreneur, just like help, somebody help, like somebody just give me the money. I don't have to go through
Yeah.
this pitching thing. Uh, so that lack of support, from those around me, and no, that's not true. From government, because yay, everybody around me has done a lot. One thing I do want to be honest about is the challenges I face, I don't think are as hectic as the challenges another person will face because
Mm,
I am acquainted with a lot of people that are already in the industry. So it's like you get that kind of like verification. You've got like that validation from somebody else. But as a person, also maybe from some in Rustenburg who wants to get into the creative industry, there is so many hurdles. There's so much red tape. Literally, there's this grant that just came out for from the NFVF National Video and Film Foundation, where they give you a micro budget of like 4.5 million and rand, and it's like that seems like a lot of money, but when you actually get into the nitty gritty of running a production, it's not a lot. So that's
yeah.
for you to do three um, movies. Again, I might not be quoting this correctly, but they're like, oh, this is for emerging filmmakers. But hopefully you have done like three films before and you have a team with
Mm,
directors and all this stuff. And it's like, where would I have the money to hire those people? I need
mhm.
you to give me the money. So now it's like a bit of a catch-22. It's like, you're chasing your own tail. I don't have the money,
Yeah.
but for me to have the money, I need to hire people that are
Yeah.
like professionals in the space. I understand it from a business perspective. You don't want to give money to a 22-year-old who has never done
Yeah.
anything. They're probably going to run with it.
Yeah.
I do feel like that's exclusionary. And I think it plays into, again, these fragmented systems I spoke to earlier. I spoke on earlier, Guti. Yeah, there's just poor legislation. The policies unprioritized. Our current minister of sports and culture is just, I don't know what he's doing anymore. Like, he focused on F1 and spinning. Yeah, so it's like, yikes.
I
Yeah.
mean, just hearing what you're saying is it could as well be Nigeria. That's the funny thing. It could as well be Nigeria where I am, right? So that's how you realize we are really not as different as we think. Yeah, there are different cultures, but we're really not as different as we think. When you think about the leaders, the economies, as a whole, we are really not as different as we think. And I mean, you said earlier that you don't know how you would advise the government. But if in your own shoe, for example, now, like in your particular context, if you were the government, are there things you will put in place to help businesses like yours? Like when you look at challenges you faced, are there things you will put in place to help businesses like yours?
I think less red tape. Not like, okay, grants for everybody, as much as I'd like to do that. But I think I would take a more personalized approach. I feel like we lack an understanding of the creative industry as it stands, especially in the context of Africa. Um, Canada, America, okay, what's a country in Europe that's doing really well? Those people, they take art seriously and they like, look, you need this money, here you go. Just report. Oh, the European Union as well. I mean, I think they were the ones, yeah, the EU Development Fund. They were the ones who were like kind of backing the program that we were in. You will find that you'll get more help outside than you do inside.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd become a very
Mhm.
jealous person. I'd be like, hey, you can't be funding my people. I'm gonna fund them first. And then I would look at how the creative industry in Africa fits on a global stage, on a global landscape, and then kind of try and tailor Because again, a lot of our legislation is outdated. It's not personalized. We're very product based as well. Like because IP is an intangible asset that appreciates.
Yeah,
We are still focused on like, look, sell me a belt, sell me a shoe,
yeah,
sell
yeah,
me food. And it's like it's
yeah,
IP is not a tangible thing. So I would look more into the business model of that and then kind of cater to it and say, look, IP, I mean, there's people still streaming The Godfather now, and it was made years ago. That person's still making money. So I would like kind of look at that and be like, okay, look, I might not get money this year. I might not get see a return next year. But how can I help you navigate this in the meantime? So incubation programs, I would yeah, I'd have incubation programs within South Africa. I'd have funding for festivals that isn't biased. Another thing is government is not this big scary entity. It's the people. It's your aunt.
yeah.
It's your friend. It's your friend's friend. I would yo, I wouldn't audit them a lot, but I would like be making sure it's okay. You're not like because I can put all these systems into place, but if the person I'm hiring to uphold those rules and regulations isn't doing what I need them to do, then you gotta go. Because you're gonna
Mhm.
go to the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture in Durban, and you've got Hannah there, and Hannah wants money before you for your application to go through. If you want funding, she wants 10,000. That's you're putting a barrier in place. That's that red tape. So that's that's what I would deal with. I'd be like, look, this is what I said, and you need to enforce this accordingly. So yeah,
So you need to
yeah.
pay a certain amount to then get your whatever approved. It's like the same thing over here. Like, okay, so all of you are everyone is thinking alike. We're all thinking alike. So it's like, okay,
Same.
so
Same.
okay, so that means I mean I would think that means if one African nation can get it right, then they can be a template for the others. I didn't forget what I'm saying. Because if all of them are doing the same thing, if one can get it right, I don't know. I don't. This is just theoretical, to be honest. I'm just thinking
No, you
theoretically now.
keep.
If one can get it right,
Yeah.
then the others can follow suit because they are basically doing the same thing. The corruption is not different. It's
Hmm.
actually the same thing. You said something earlier about you are a. It's I don't know what you call it in South Africa. Is it ethnic group or where are you from? Like in South Africa. For example, I'm
Oh,
Yoruba. I'm from Oyo State,
yes.
right?
I am from KZN originally, so I'm Zulu.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Zulu.
but I'm currently in Gauteng. Mm,
How thing? I'll
yeah,
visit South Africa
Pretoria.
and visit one of these days. I'll visit South Africa and just
Please,
because
and vice versa.
it's really interesting learning about other cultures. To be honest, I mean the languages,
Same.
the accents, and all those things, the culture, and like I said
Yeah.
earlier, despite how different we are culturally, we are really still the same. Just on the final note, you mentioned something about the EU, right? And what I've discovered
Yes.
is the EU, they were very deliberate in trying to figure out how they can be unified, right? There's something on my WhatsApp right now about flying across Africa. Like even for the Nations Cup, I think they said, I don't know if it's South Africa or Kenya, they had to first go to Dubai before going to Morocco. And to me, it's just
Yeah.
insane. So the one I posted on my WhatsApp, the person said, so the person was going to, I think, Cameroon. They first flew to Kenya. So from Nigeria, okay, from my own perspective, from Nigeria to Kenya, and then you now come to Cameroon. When you can just go Nigeria to Cameroon. It's like that is insane. And you then wonder why the government is not doing anything about it, or maybe they are doing something about it and they cannot figure it out. And so having the template of the EU and trying to adopt that, maybe a single currency or a single whatever it is, do you think that is possible, like for Africans? Do you think it's possible, and do you think it will help if it is done?
Mm. Yeah.
in your own opinion. Don't
I
forget, it's just
think,
in your own opinion. You don't have to be an expert on
yeah,
it.
my own opinion. I don't want people to hold me accountable and say this girl said, no,
No,
I
no.
think I become like a bit of a conspiracy theorist because I feel like there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes in the background. There are things we're fighting that we don't even know we're fighting. So ideally, yes, it is possible when I'm being idealistic. But in
Yeah.
reality, again, I hope I'd see it in my lifetime. I hope I live long enough to see that. But yeah, I don't know. Because even now I'm finding out today that you guys are facing the same issues we are, you know? Um, so I don't know. Hey, I think if we wanted to, we would. And right
Yeah.
now I don't think we want. Yeah,
Maybe.
I think the powers that be, even ourselves, we like ourselves like illiterates or just disadvantaged. Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole purpose of trying to. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I hope to just find a way to change the narrative and trying to try to spark these conversations. The conversations are they're already happening, but just hope to just
Mm.
shift things, even if it's a little bit. Yeah, just to bring awareness to a lot more people, and hopefully from there we can move things forward. Because media is a very, very, very strong, is very powerful media, because media is what shapes narrative, and I'm sure it's part of why you're also in that space, the creative space, because you can actually shape
Yeah.
people's perception, people's like perception about things with the media. So just
Mm.
trying to use media to do that. I mean, hopefully it goes a long way, no matter how little. No matter how little what we're doing is, hopefully it goes a long way. Yeah. So Sino, thank you so much. You're my first guest, and hopefully, when this gets a lot bigger, I'm going to invite you again to come back in a much better
Oh,
condition,
I'd
and we don't
love
have
that.
where we'll not have the this thing going off and on and the network going off and on. Trying to like patch things together. Thank you so much. Even if it's really, really still very the basic setup. Thank you for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I really do, sincerely.
I love this. I love everything that you're doing. I still have like 3 minutes left. I love everything that you're doing, and I wanted to commend you for that. I actually wanted to make like a long-winded speech to say, um, through everything that we're talking about, you're actually taking action. You and I can sit here and talk about it theoretically, but the fact that we're even having this conversation is contributing to change. And I just love your mindset because media is powerful. Media is, you can't shift narratives with that. And understanding ourselves in our situations. And I'm gonna dive deeper into your like previous interviews. And I'm hoping you could have, I'll send you her social media. Oh, Nompumelelo myself, Voice of Lelo on here. Because I think you guys are just on par intellectually as well in terms of how you view things. But thank you so much for having me. And I hope I can come back.